The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook and Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Turntable City, located at 202 Suite A, West Main Street in Lexington, South Carolina, where you can find vinyl, records, albums, and everything in between. For more information about selling vinyl, CDs, and tapes, please visit their website, www.turntable-city.com, where you can download The Sound of Turntable with free DJ mixes, remixes, and instrumentals. Be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Turntable City.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast, where Skip and DJ And What interview guests and discuss topics such as business, current events, and pop culture. The motivational podcast for the hip-hop millennial.
Good morning, everybody. This is Skip. I'm with my co-host, DJ And What. Today,
We're going to be talking with Mr. Duvall, is a storyteller, producer, director, educator, and fellow hip hop aficionado. Shekeese, well, that's how I refer to or how I know him. He's done work for VH1, Discovery Channel, ESPN, BET, and locally here in Columbia with the Mungo Companies, Justice 360, and the American Cancer Society. And he is the founder of On The Real OTR Media Group. Shekeese, how are you doing today?
First of all, who is Skip?
Oh, that's me, man. That's me. That's what my friends call me, man. Nickname, man. They've always called me that.
I ain't never heard that, Kev. I've known you over 10 years. I ain't never heard of Skip.
You
One time.
I know, man. I know.
What is going on here?
Hey, man. Ain't much, man. Doing well, living life, having a good time doing it.
What's the Skip thing about, and what? You gotta explain it to me.
Man, all right. So Kevin, like, at first we called him Peoples because
like
he used
DJ
to just,
Peoples?
No, just like Peoples. Like, you remember Shaft? You remember the movie Shaft? The newer movie Shaft? The redo with
yeah.
All right, so they had a guy in the Peoples and they called him Peoples because he just knew everybody.
Right.
Well, Kevin networks with everybody. And because of that, we started calling him Peoples. But after a while, we were like, maybe we shouldn't call him Peoples because of association with the criminal in the Shaft. So we started just calling him Skip. And that name, it just stuck ever since. And that was like, that goes back to Joe Stroman and our homeboy Montrez and stuff at the College of Charleston. So whenever we used to do events, parties, or whatever it was, fundraisers and stuff like that in Charleston, we just called him Skip, and we'd put that on everything. Since, we are hip hop, an identity, so everybody has a moniker. You find something to come with. So we had to come up with something for him. So we call him Skip. Plus, back in the day, it's better than back in the day, because back in the day, it was always him, my dad. And since he's a junior, we would call him Lil Kevin. So you got Big Kevin and Lil Kevin. So Kevin, I know he's happy to graduate from Lil Kevin because he's no longer little. So we had to call him something else.
I can tell you right now, I'm never calling you Staggers again. I'm only calling you Skip from now.
Yeah, because that's true. That's what all you guys call me that. You, Kingsley, all y'all call me Staggers.
Well, we all met Staggers as a producer. You know what I mean? So that's how we met. And Skip. So I feel like I'm Shannon Sharp.
There you go. You're right. Right now, yes. Skip. It's Shannon.
Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, pleasure, man. And you were definitely somebody that when we first started the podcast, as far as guests, we were definitely looking to get you on, especially for this first season that we're going to be doing.
Word.
And I know behind the scenes, we were working on, of course, getting everything lined up and scheduled for a couple months now, because I know, of course, you're very busy and you have a lot of projects and stuff. You do a lot of traveling. And I know a lot of people don't realize that we were chopping it up about you being on here since probably like end of January, beginning of February.
Right.
We're talking about it.
Yeah.
So that was good. So like I said, I'm just looking forward, like I said, just to, having you up here so, we can kind of talk, just kind of ask some questions, that, and just kind of have a conversation that we don't really normally get to have. Cause I know one of the purposes of doing the podcast was I wanted to bring on guests and people that I know that are people not necessarily that I guess I kind of look up to or respect. But I have conversations with them in passing, but because we're having it in passing and there's a lot of stuff usually going on when I'm, like connecting with them, we really don't have time to really talk or chat because either they're busy doing something at the event or whatever's going on and vice versa. True. And you were definitely you're like a model of that because it's like you're somebody I always want to sit down and have a conversation with, but there's always other stuff going on and happening.
Right. Wow. Well, thank you, man. I'm sorry, Kev. That was very heartfelt, but I'm a little bit distracted because my neighbor's dog is going ham.
I hear him. That's all right.
And this never happens. Like, but this. I live in Earlwood, downtown in Columbia, and
yo, be quiet. All right, my mother lives in Earlwood.
Oh, okay. Wow, that makes me feel old. But, just messing with you, bro. And so there's the big flea market happening all over where everybody's selling stuff in their front yard. So everybody's walking around.
Oh,
I didn't think about that until just now. And I was like, why is this dog on ham? I'm like, because all these people walk around the neighborhood today. So there we
That's
go.
all good. We'll work around it.
But with that said, yeah, man, I really appreciate that. I anytime somebody thinks well enough of me, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right. So I'm always down with it.
Word. And of course, man, when anybody hears your name, of course, they're automatically going to think Shekeese the Beast. So that triggers, that's going to trigger Hot 103.9 and of course, like nonstop hip hop. Mm-hmm. And stuff, and of course, and then other things too, like even with like Love, Peace and Hip Hop, so when people associate with you, that's what they think. They think hip hop, the culture, South Carolina, Columbia, right? And and then, you gave a lot of artists, local artists, their first bit of airtime, and you did the freestyle call-in segment too during the shows. And of course, personally for me, the Beat Street Beat Battles. Exactly. I had some good days and I had some bad days at the Beat Street Beat Battles. But it's all memorable to me. Maybe the person that I am today.
No, man. Dope.
Yeah. But one of the things I know since that time is you've made a name for yourself in the world of film production, visual storytelling, and documentary film making in particular. If you could just answer this question for us, like how did that evolution happen for you?
Well, it's actually quite interesting, and I tell the story a lot. But I've been in the film and telling stories since I was probably 8 years old. Probably before that, when I was in third grade, my mom, whenever people get close enough to me to go to my mom still has this book that I wrote, this story of a stamp when I was in third grade, and I made it. I wrote it like a movie. And so whenever people go to her house, she always breaks it out, they embarrass me. But I've been doing it. And a lot of people didn't understand that, all the while I was Shekeese the Beast. Well, not all the while, but a lot of the time that I was Shekeese the Beast, I was in school, It's funny because I went to USC and at the time I was DJing on the radio. So I was, 5 days a week. I did the noon mix, 20-minute workout. And then I did Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon I had an old school hip hop show and a reggae show. So I was on the air a lot. And so people would see me on campus and be like, and I would hear people. I curse. Can I curse?
Yeah.
So I know it's gonna come out, and I don't. If y'all bleep it out later, I'm gonna feel bad because I was like, I could have just muted myself, but like a radio hip hop version. But yeah, people would see me on campus and be like, "Yo, guess who I seen on campus acting like they go here? I seen Shekeese the Beast walking around," and I'm like, "Nigga, I really do go here, but I got it." You know what I mean? People see me on TV, or I was blessed to have a bunch of opportunities when it came to hip hop. From DJing parties or BET and MTV, and of course, radio. And I was on radio in several states, in addition to South Carolina. So, and then plus, Nonstop Hip Hop Live. And then we did shows and concerts and events and had birthday parties. And so, a lot of people there was a Shekeese the Beast era, if you will, I'm finding out. Excuse me, as I get older, and people be like, "Oh man, I grew up on you. I used to listen to you at work." Or, it's weird. It's weird. But that was never my thing. Like I tell people all the time that ask me this question, I got into DJing to win a pair of gold turntables. When I was 15 years old, I saw a friend of mine show me the DMC battles, the world DMC battles. Yeah. You can win a pair of gold turntables and a gold mixer. And I was like, yo, I want to do that. So I used to stay up at my house all night, which actually DJing saved me from the streets because I was selling a little bit of hand to hand at the time. But DJing kept me in the house because I'd be in the house all night watching Rock Raider tapes and watching Q tapes and, DJing at 3 or 4 in the morning. And I ended up getting a pair of turntables because my homeboy, Jabril Mean, shout out to Bree, he's a lieutenant colonel now up in North Carolina. He just got a command up there. I'm very proud of him. But his cousin was going to the military, was getting rid of his DJ equipment. And I lied and was like, yo, I know how to DJ. Give it to me. Equipment off of Live when I was 15 and became Shekeese the Beast in high school. And so a lot of people knew me for that because I've been DJing for so long. But my passion was film and TV, which is what I went to school for. And so it was weird, Kev. For a minute, I was living like this double life, if you will.
Yeah.
I was Shekeese the Beast at night, even in the daytime, because people didn't know I was pre-recording my mixes on the radio by the time I really started being a producer at Genesis and doing a lot of work for a lot of these big companies like Discovery Health and ESPN. I'd be on the air, but I'm not actually on the air. It's just, it's pre-recorded. And so I would be on sets, you know what I mean? And it came a point in time in 2008. I remember I had the biggest commercial job I ever had, which was I was producing a series of commercials for Colonial Life, you know, not the local, the national organization. I think at the time got bought by Unum. And so they were doing these 6 huge spots. The budget was like $380,000. And it was a huge commercial. And a series of commercials, with 6 of them. And I remember we was in Newberry filming. I was sitting in my producer chair. It was like 11:30 at night on a Friday. And I said to myself, if somebody called me right now to DJ a party, would I go? And I said, no way in hell. And right then and there, I was like, I got to quit.
Exactly.
And what's interesting is I remember telling myself I was going to quit. And then like a month later, our DJ somewhere woke up the next morning. I didn't realize I left my car unlocked and somebody got me for all my gear.
Yo.
In my car. Like, and I remember I turned around, I looked in the back seat, everything was gone except the records. And I looked up at the ceiling and I was like, I got it. I was like, I hear you.
Yep.
I quit just like that. I went up to the radio station and I told Chris Connors was the production program director at the time. I think he's still the program director, hot. He just thought I was going to another station. He's just like, man, because I was DJing in a lot of markets at the time. New York, Maine, you know, South Carolina, Florida. I was kind of everywhere. Georgia. Doing a lot of pre-recorded mixes all over. And I was like, nah, man. I was like, January 2009, it's a wrap for Shekeese Beats. And I quit to do film full time. And I was, you know, bro, you got to keep in mind, I'm 40 hours a week at Genesis. Plus, if I'm working on set, you know, that means I'm doing 60 hours a week. Cause, you know, you could have a 10-hour day or a 14-hour day on set, right? Plus, I'm DJing 5 times a week on the radio, which I got to do I used to do all those pre-recorded mixes on Sunday. So I'd be at the radio station on Sunday from like 2 to like 11. You know what I mean? Recording all these mixes for hours. Sometimes I would have to pre-record Friday night, Saturday night too, if I had to work. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I was still DJing. So I was still, sometimes I would leave set. I'd be at set from 5 to like 8 p.m. Leave there, change clothes, put in my records in the car, and then go DJ till like 3, 4 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Man.
And it was just like a
hip-hop time joiner.
Serious.
After that, around this time, you know, so this is between 2000 and 2008. So, you know, Nonstop Hip Hop Live is popping around that time. We doing KRS shows and, you know, all this rocket shows. And that's when Lyrical Buddha was around. And I'm managing Fat Rat at the time. This is before Love, Peace, and Hip Hop popped off. And so it was unsustainable, bro. Like I was tired, and I was like, you know, I started working in the field that I love, and I actually started making real money in the field that I love. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna put Shekeese Beats to bed. And everybody was like, well, how could you quit? All we know you for is DJing. But that's on you. You know what I mean? That ain't on me. You know, people that are really close to me know that I work at Genesis and I do film and I went to school for this. You know, this is what I do. But the people that weren't that close to me only knew me as Shekeese Beats. And when you like a local celebrity or whatever have you, people kind of, you know you in that world. And, you know, being a musician, man, I know this to be true because I have this experience with artists I don't know. Like I feel a certain way about them. You know what I mean? Especially like, you know, you take a Goody Mob or a Jay-Z, like I grew up with them. So like, you know, when artists do something else or when they lead again, it's like, man, why would they do that? You know, they
it's
so
like you're losing a piece of your family.
You know how we do that? We do that all the time.
We do it all the time.
Yeah. Flo, they was so ill. Like, you know, what happened to, you know, buddy of mine, Jabari Evans from Kids in the Hall? You know, but people are like, what happened to Kids in the Hall? I'm like, well, Jabari, you know, he's a teacher now. He's actually doing a great job. But it's like, you know, you have this emotional connection, you know, to people for whatever reason. And I understand it because I get it. But I don't mind people still calling me Shekeese. You know, I earned that name. You know what I mean? That's why, you know, in the film world, I took that name with me. So, you know, everything we'll say Sherard, Shekeese, Duvall, usually stuff that I'm working on because it's all me. You know what I mean? It's all a part of me. You know what I mean? And so hip hop for me wasn't a job. Hip hop for me was life. You get it? And so like me being a DJ, wanting to win some gold turntables, that was part of my life, bro. Like and so I'm always going to be hip hop forever. You know, I don't have no turntables no more, but I got one of them old school 50s turntables. You know what I mean? Like I still
got a record player.
You know, I'm still a hip hop dude, but, I don't DJ no more or anything like that. But yeah, so it was easy for me to go. It was easy for me to make that transition because I never got into hip hop as a career. Here's another one. So everything that happened to me when it came to Shekeese the Beast's career was happenstance. I have to tell people this all the time. I never did a demo. I never fill out an application. I never did let me see if I can go and DJ, see if this person will hire me to DJ at this club. I never did none of that. Everything that happened to Shekeese the Beast was happenstance. I was DJing at a club. Somebody would see me. Yo, do you want to DJ over here? That's how I ended up getting on Big DM with Prince Ice. I ended up getting on Hot 103.9 as Mike Love saw me DJing at the Russell House. And then he just so happened to hire a dude named Charlamagne the God. And next thing you know, me and Charlamagne doing a show together. Like it was all happenstance. It was never like, I never did it was, and so like the career took on a BET, all that stuff happened. BET happened because of Shekeese. Me and Shekeese was friends, and I can say this now because he doesn't do this anymore and I don't DJ no more. But I don't know if how well y'all know Shekeese, but Shekeese was signed to So Def for a minute with he's Bow Wow's too. And so Shekeese would be out of town. Our DJ styles were similar. So he would call me if he had to go somewhere with Bow Wow and be like, yo, can you show up as me? And like, I would do that. And then, then I would get gigs off of that. And so that's how things like, BET, MTV came about. So it never was like, yo, I'm going to start this career as a DJ and I'm going to, put this plan to be this. Like, all of it was happenstance. And so what I did deliberately was film. I went to school for that. I PA for that. I freelanced for that. I carried lights and fixed, I worked in wardrobe departments and makeup departments and construction departments and assistant producer, production coordinator. I did everything. You know what I mean? Like I did that work. It wasn't like that with the DJ world. That all just kind of came. I was all kind of God sent. And so, yeah. So that's another important part of that I think will help clarify it for people. So that's how I made that transition, and that's why.
Hey, man, that's interesting. Just to put that together, because I know meeting you, not knowing all of that background, so the DJing was a stepping stone basically for the other items that you went into, because like you said, you put your real effort, your work, your free giving of your time was into your love, which was, like you said, filmmaking and message creating, right?
I can't say it was a stepping stone because it was at the time, I thought it was two totally different worlds. Like I told you before, like I had a double life. Like it was actually, I got to give a shout out to Cliff Springs at Genesis Studios. He was the one that first told me to put Sherard, Shekeese, Duvall on my business card. What would happen was when I'd be at Genesis, I'd be on set smart. And people wouldn't know that I worked at Genesis. And so people would see me and be like, yo, is that Shekeese the Beast? Right? And so after that happening several times, my boss walked over to my desk. Our desks were right next to each other. He would be like, yo, why don't you just put Shekeese on your business card? Like everybody coming here know you as Shekeese. And I was trying to separate the worlds. I was trying to be like Sherard over here, Shekeese in the streets. You know what I mean? Which when I look back on it, it was stupid. You know what I mean? But I didn't do that. Cliff Springs did that. So shout out to Cliff, everybody at Genesis. I still got love for him and them to this day. And so that's how the Sherard, Shekeese, Duvall thing actually happened, was blending those two worlds together. So I own that name.
So one of the things, actually, a couple weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago, I ran into, because, Columbia is a very small city.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So everybody's sort of, it's probably not even 6 degrees, probably 3 degrees of separation.
Probably two.
Yeah, facts. And so I remember I ran into a gentleman, Terrell Maxwell, a local photographer here. And I think he does some video work too. I stopped by his studio he's over in Vista. And I remember I was having a conversation with one of our guest hosts that comes on all the time. I'm Tamaya Allen. And I brought up just the names of some of the people that we're going to be talking to in the next couple of weeks. And your name came up. And one of the things he was telling me, the first thing he was like, oh man, you can have Shekeese up there. He was like, man, talking about somebody that could tell a story. Man, I remember I was on the set. He let me shadow him or something. And he was like, I was on the set. He did a shot in 14 seconds. He's like, boom. All right, good. Now let's go over here. He said he did a shot in like 10 seconds. Boom. Good. Go over here. And he said he was so amazed at how you put the story together as far as what project you were working on at the time.
Wow.
And Yeah, and he was really impressed. Like it was out of nowhere. I was like, oh, okay. And like, cause this is my first time speaking to somebody specifically about your film work.
Wow.
And so, yeah, he was like really impressed and stuff. And he said he learned a lot from you just from that short time that he was with you that day on that particular set. And one of the things that I thought was really dope about it was I was like, obviously, this is something you've always had this gift and you've always had this talent. And a lot of times in our community, especially like you said, because like I said, because hip hop and Black for me, it's all synonymous to me because of because of who's around right now. Because we're all impacted by hip hop. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't matter whether or not we try to attach ourselves from it or not. But one of the things we don't do is when we have our talents, we often will use our talents in other areas or to help other people per se, but we'll never do them for ourselves, for our own fulfillment. It seems like on times. Oh yeah. And so for you, and this kind of goes with the OTR Media Group piece, when did you decide that you wanted to kind of start your own media company? And can you just share a little bit with us about how you first got started?
Yeah, actually I will. Wow. Thank you for that. Memory. You just never know how you influence people. That kind of thing happens to me all the time, Kevin. I'm just always like, you take for granted when you're moving so fast in the world that you have a good impact on people. And it just always humbles me to hear stuff like that. So thank you for sharing that story. Must mean I'm doing something right with my life.
True.
But OTR kind of came about initially. It was actually Fat's idea when I was at Genesis. And I had no interest in doing no media company or nothing like that on my own. I was at the time, this is probably about 2011. 2010, I was so deep into the network TV game at that point. I was like, I ain't even think about doing, nothing small. I saw it as small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes your ego can get the best of you. And so I started doing all these videos for Fat, if you remember, like Fat Rad and all around the town. We did a lot of videos together. As a matter of fact, I think I did all Fat's music videos. By the way, we did a new one. Oh shit, Life and Times. Actually, me and him collaborated on that, which is a wonderful experience. We never really did it like that before, where we just freestyle the whole concept and everything together. It was a real collaboration. That's my big brother. So, but anyway, it was his idea. He was like, yo, why don't you do your own production company, so you can have something to operate under separate from Genesis. And at the time I was like, why? I'm doing this VH1 shit. This isn't, I didn't consider it a path. And then when I started having problems at Genesis, I was like, yo, if I leave, I need something to continue doing work under. So originally OTR Films was the name of the company, and me and Fat were partners in the company. And I launched OTR Films to be something that I could do my film work under when I left Genesis, which I did in 2012. And which I kind of got fired, but not really. It was kind of like we don't know what to do with you because my ego had gotten so big and I was out of control at that time. He didn't want to fire me, but he was like, I can't keep you here. Yeah. And so that's my son. What's up? Okay. All right. You in the front yard? All right. Y'all be careful, okay? Sorry, that was my cousin actually.
No problem.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. All right. So OTR Films. Yes. Yeah. Like that. And when I started OTR Films, I wasn't really taking it on full time. It was just kind of like, yo, I got this thing, this LLC over here. People want to hire me to do work now that I've left Genesis Studios, which did happen. But I ended up, if you remember, Kevin, I was at the Nickelodeon Theater. I took a position as the director of media education over there.
Yeah, I remember that.
And all the education programs that they have over there that are now under Indie Grits Labs. I designed all those. But anyway,
wow.
So I was at the Nick. OTR was kind of like a side thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I started having problems at the Nick. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. My relationship with the executive director wasn't what I thought it was going to be. He was turning it into something else, and I didn't like that. And so we couldn't see eye to eye. And so I left in 2015. And when I left, one of the things that happened to me when I was at the Nick is I was doing all this media education work, media literacy work, which is now a part of what we do at OTR. And I was working with all these kids and helping them, learn filmmaking and writing these curriculums for schools and teaching people. I was learning all about media literacy, and it was really blowing my mind. And I really started loving that work, and I started getting more into documentary work when I was at the Nick. Mm-hmm. And what really connected me to documentary, I'm just be 1,000% honest. We started going to film festivals like Sundance and stuff like that. So we would go around the country and we would go to all these festivals, and I would meet all these people in Chicago and Providence and New York, boom, boom. And I started seeing these budgets for these documentary films. Now, I'm coming from the corporate side of, I'm ESPN, Discovery Channel. I'm going that way because I'm thinking, that's going to be my path to the money. Yeah. I go over here and I'm looking at these guys that got budgets in the millions of dollars. And I'm like, I had no idea. Like my mind frame of documentary work was, you're going to be a broke artist. Like I ain't about that life, bro. And I started seeing these budgets. I was like, I could do this as a career. What's up? Y'all need some help? Yep. All right, hold on for a second. All right. Hold on for 1 second. Let me finish the story, then I'll help them out. So, all right. Parent life. Who don't have kids? And what, you got kids?
No, not yet.
All right, well, get ready. Particularly in this digital age, man. It is what it is. But I'll try to make it short. So basically what happened was when I saw that, I said, this could be a thing. And when I left the Nick, I had all of this credo as a media literacy professional. And I was working with a lot of people when it came to media strategy, internally and externally, meaning how do I manage media outside of my company? But hey, we're trying to launch this initiative. How before we start developing a logo, how do we put together a strategy for this brand? Mm-hmm. I started doing that work. And then I was like, I could add the documentary work to that. And that was the foundation of what became OTR in 2015 when I worked the Nick. So I spent the next 25 months saving money, literally doing projects that I felt the ethos of what the company should look like and feel like, spent a ton of money on doing the branding. Shout out to Jessica Boyd and Tiffany Hughes, who I'll love forever because they developed the branding for OTRMG. And I put those 3 categories up, made sure I had enough fresh work because I'm like, I'm a hip hop dude. So, Outkast always says you only funky as your last hit. So I didn't want to come into the game using nothing I used at Genesis. It's all on my resume, the stuff I did for ESPN, visual, all that shit, but it's not a part of my business. Now it's like, I want all fresh shit. I want all shit I produced that OTR Media Group can say, we did this. And so I did that for 25 months and launched the company officially in January 2018. And so that's what happened.
Going back to with the kids thing, that's something that's been a whole different thing. We got to talk about that because during this podcast, because that's the thing creatively, because I know there's one person I used to always talk about this with, but of course with the pandemic, I really haven't been seeing them around and stuff. But I used to talk with Kingsley a lot about this type of stuff, like, getting older, how you like maintain your creativity, but at the same time, your responsibilities. So that's another reason why we started doing the podcast too, because it's like, we want to talk to people, creatives of a certain age.
Exactly.
Because it's like, not that we don't want to talk to like the 19-year-old or the 20-year-old about what they're bringing to the table, what gifts or talents they got, or give them a platform. This is really about having that conversation with that person that I've been in the creative life for this long. Now my life is changing. What am I doing? What am I doing when I'm adult? And how do I still keep that passion and at the same time do what I'm required to do? Yeah.
It's called experience. I was listening to this. I'm a big fan of Julia Adenuga in the UK, and she had this interview on Pastor Mike the other day with this author named Brathwaite. I forgot her first name. And she was like, I got nothing against young people giving advice, but you ain't had enough periods yet. It's like, that's the perfect way to put it. So I get what you're saying. Experiences, particularly when you have kids and you're married on a long-term relationship. Being able to maintain that creativity is interesting. It's an interesting perspective from us. Mm-hmm. And for me, my life is, like I told you earlier, it was an offhand comment earlier, but I really do live my life face up, Mm-hmm. It just makes my life easier. And so my life as a parent is kind of blended into my life as Shekeese. Because, my son is always around, number one, everybody knows what I do. My mom, I don't have like no secret artist life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is my life. So everybody that knows my life knows what I do. It's all one thing. And I also made sure that I put the time in and worked a plan that was financially beneficial. It was hard starting OTR at first. I went flat broke. I tell everybody, those 25 months I put in was kind of a crazy thing to do because most people would be like, well, I'm gonna go get a job. You know what I mean? But I just knew, and which I did. I actually was working overnights at Target, but I wanted my daytimes free to work on OTR. So I did that during those 25 months. And
I have a quick question for you, Shekeese. Yeah. During that 25 months, this is just for the listeners, just as a perspective, were you just fundraising or were you earning your own money and putting your own money aside for the...
So I was making my own money and putting my own money aside. I wasn't raising no funds. I was...
You're doing it the real way.
Work, if I wasn't doing work in the daytime for OTR, then I was working at night for Target. I was literally working overnights, offloading trucks.
Man, you're a good man. Yeah, that's the real way to do it. Yeah.
I had a lady, you know what I mean? And I had a baby, you know what I mean? So I had to keep working, but and it was a grind, you know what I mean? I was extremely tired and a little bit embarrassed, you know what I mean? Because, I would walk up and talk to people like, what the fuck is Shekeese the Beast doing? But they didn't understand what I was trying to do,
Yeah,
and
you were building.
That I try to tell people, like, it's not about the right now. It's about what are you working towards? Mm-hmm. Fuck how people feel about what's happening right now. Like if they don't understand what you're working towards. Yes. And so no, bro, I was working to make money because I needed money to start the business. I needed money to build the business exactly how I wanted it because I had a defined plan of how the business would look, the 3 areas we would work in, what our business plan needed to look like, right? And what our brand needed to look like because I knew who I wanted to compete with in the marketplace. And so I took those months to invest in myself and, grind out, to the max. And like I said before, I was flat broke when we launched OTR that January. I had a release. I had a party where I invited not really a party. We went to the Grand and I invited people that I know, like my mom and, some close friends of mine and they came to celebrate with me. I had $18. I was like, I hope nobody don't ask me to buy them no drink. Cause everybody's, looking at the website and the website launched and everything. And I was over there like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do for rent. I was broke, I was behind on everything. And 3 months later, I had the biggest deal I ever had on my own, paid for that 25 months in one day. And it was the best feeling in the world because I knew I did the right thing. And so.
And you didn't have to answer to anybody because like you said, you didn't take funds from other people. You raised that money and worked that money yourself to create your dream. That's a big thing for our audience to hear and understand that you can do that yourself because normally they're used to hearing, hey, I have to crowdsource or fund through these different platforms or go to larger groups. And then you're kind of beholden to what they want you to produce. After that, could you explain that side of how that works? 'Cause I know you work with the corporate media business, and just to explain that to the audience, why you did all that work to stay independent, basically.
Well, I put that work in because I had a specific vision for how I wanted the company to be. Okay. And I knew if I wanted the company to be that way, I was going to have to show people what that looked like. I had to get it out of my head and I had to make it a reality. And, that was everything for how much the branding was going to cost, how much the website was going to cost. A lot of people looked at me at that time when they saw, what I was spending on these things. They was like, why would you spend that much on a website, bro? And I was like, nah, I was like, look at these are the people I'm trying to compete with. They making $100,000 on their projects. They doing $250,000 commercials. I'm trying to compete with them. I can't have a website that look like I'm trying to compete with somebody that's, that's on Wix, free Wix website. You know what I mean? I just couldn't do that. And so I had to put the work in. And so that's what that's really about. And what is your vision for what you're trying to do? And if that vision is clear and the marketplace you want to compete in, then you got to put the work to make that happen. And here's the thing about that. When you do it that way is nobody can take it from you.
True.
That's the part that I love more than anything else. Is once that March happened and I got that one gig that changed my whole life and the direction of my company forever, I knew that I could do it because I did it. You know what I mean? Couldn't nobody take that from me. And so that's the part that I always encourage people to, if you got something you want to do, you got a business or a plan, put the work in, bro, and then work that plan. Make sure you check off every bullet list on that plan until it's all checked off. And then when it's checked off, you're going to have to wait a little bit. You're going to have to be a little bit patient because it ain't going to all happen at once, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. If you put together a solid plan, you work that plan, and you know that the plan you put together is a plan that's workable, which is the other thing. Because a lot of times people put together plans that's not workable.
Not realistic. You know what I mean? Yep.
Not realistic. It's not a realistic plan. You didn't do no data. Like I tell people, all the time, like we live in the data age. Like it's so easy to get data nowadays. Shoot, most companies do it for you. And so,
it's true.
You know what I mean? And so I went into it saying, okay, do I have the clientele or the network where I can do projects that are $50,000, $100,000 project? You see what I'm saying? I didn't go, oh, well, I'm a dream. One day I'll be over there. Like, nah. That shit. I was like, let me look at who's in my phone.
Yeah.
Who can I touch? Will these people pay me for what I know? And I said they will, but there's a certain bar I got to hit. So I did my best to put the work in to hit that bar. And one of the things I love about doing it for yourself, man, is the freedom that you get with writing your own, the next phase of what that looks like. Because I don't owe nobody, I'm not beholden to anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, I've did it this way. What's the next version of this? Let's see what else I can do. It's almost like kind of like a high, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That you've built for yourself. And it's just, and man, like seeing your parents and even my lady was there when I was broke and like, nigga, what you gonna do? Like, nigga, you got a child support, like this ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? I gotta be real because this is the thing.
I appreciate that too.
When you're talking about older creatives, these are the things we deal with. When I talk to people my age or a little bit younger than me all the time, I always ask them, bro, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live? Like what you want to do, is there somebody doing it that's living the lifestyle you want to live? Because you're going to have to figure out that paper part.
Yes.
Because the two things that you got to deal with at our age is money and time. Like your family needs time. Your wife needs time. Your kids need time. So does this bullshit you want to do, is it going to fucking give you some time and it's going to give you some fucking paper? Mm-hmm. Like without those two things, you're going to be, I don't want to be the type of person that everybody around me looks at my dream like shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because your dream is making their life hard.
That's a great point. That's a good point to make.
Amazing point.
I want people around me to go, damn, that nigga dream. Not only did that nigga dream work, what the fuck do I want to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, shit, if he can do that, damn, then what can I do? And so my lady and my mom, like these people saw me go from flat broke. Before I launched, I remember before I moved into the place I got now, I was sleeping on my mom's couch for 2 months. I'm talking about 30 some odd years old, bro. You get me?
Yeah, I get you.
They saw me go from that to this. I want for nothing. And they saw that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, damn, you really can. Like, and I'm not trying, that's not no, like, I have to be very clear when I'm talking about this subject.
You aren't flexing. You ain't capping.
Nah, at all. Because when you over 30, particularly over 35, people gonna look at you different when you got a dream.
Yeah.
Because they really look. I remember my mom was like, "Nigga, why don't you just come work at the hotel with me? Like, they hiring."
Oh no!
You know what I mean?
Priority. Seriously.
If you've been a creative at this age, you get them looks from your wife. You know what I mean? When she's looking at you, oh, you about to go over there and do that again? Oh, okay. Well, what time you gonna be back? And you can just tell in her voice, she like, this nigga just wasting his fucking time. But that's the importance of putting together a plan. See, me putting that plan together, now even though B saw me struggle, Benda, you met Benda, Kev. Even though B saw me struggle and she saw the down parts, and there were times when she was unhappy, she saw the plan. Like I had it on the wall, you know.
That's what I was about to ask you. That's what I was about to ask you, Shekeese. Yeah. How, like, because you know when you say this to people, having a plan and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you had a concise, written down plan, correct?
Yes, written
Explain
down.
Explain that for folks.
Dates.
Yes.
Time.
Yes.
And so I literally put together a schedule of, so for instance, I'll take you through the process of getting the branding for the company. I remember I hit Jessica up in 2016, and I was like, Jess, this is the kind of website I want. This is how I want it to look. You know, what is that going to cost? She told me how much it was going to cost. I was like, damn, that's way more than what I thought it was going to be. I said, cool. So then I said, all right, how long is it going to take for me to work to make that amount of money? Once I figured out, you know, how many weeks it would take and how many months it would take, the next thing I did was I called Jess and was like, yo, can I do a payment plan? Right?
Hey.
Payment plan. Can we do this in stages? And she was like, yeah, sure. We can do it in stages. As long as you can make the deposit up front. I said, cool. And so I literally wrote down the things I needed on the website. And mind you, I didn't contact Jess about building the brand until I had all the pieces that would go on the website.
Key.
I needed media literacy work. I needed documentary work. I needed media strategy work. I needed it all be fresh. I needed that in the bag before I made the call to Jess. Right. I had all this shit written down. I wish we was a video. I could show you. I still got all my notes and stuff when I did this. And so that's what putting that plan together looks like. Financially, giving yourself deadlines, putting together an actual calendar and working that plan. And because when you're working it like a job, now when you're having that conversation with your mate or with your mom, it don't sound like a pie in the sky shit.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because that's the part that I found out, and I learned that from my big brother Fat Rat. That's the part I found out about that particular journey. People don't want to ride with you if you ain't got no directions.
Say it again.
It's hard for people to ride with you if you don't have directions. When you don't know where you're going, and they're looking like this, does this nigga have directions? And you look like you driving around aimlessly. People gonna be like, I don't have no confidence in you, right? But I had a plan, and people could see the plan. You know, my girl would be like, oh, you met with the SBDA today. How did the meeting go with your business plan? And, you know, damn, she told me I got a bunch of work to do. So what are you going to do? I'm going to call these 3 people. And then she would ask me next week, how did it go to me? That meeting went great. You know, that meeting didn't go so well. You know what I mean? I keep her, I was very open book about how I was working my plan. She would, because of that, she could engage with me with it. She could ask me questions about it. She could, you know, and she could talk shit. You know,
exactly. Keep the podcast.
I don't even know why you did that shit. You ain't charge that nigga enough money. You know what I mean? But she was able to see it for herself. It wasn't like this whole, I'm going out for the night, I'll be back at 10 type shit. You know,
exactly.
Where you going? I don't, we do our thing together. And then what's she gonna tell her mama? Well, that's him and his
they doing their thing.
He don't be telling me about it, so I don't really, like I was very open book.
And I think it also shows, like, you doing that shows you that you actually had pride, and like you said, you had confidence in what you were doing because you had the plan. You didn't have to hide anything. No. And so like you said, living face up, man, you were free. You were really a free man out here operating in the world.
Yeah, man, without a doubt about it. And, you know, I got a kid, man. I got a lady that loves me. I couldn't have her looking at me like she made a bad decision. True. You know what I mean?
True.
And at the same time, you know, I wanted to create the type of lifestyle for my son. I'm not with my son's mom, you know? And so, you know, anybody that's in that situation like me knows that it's precarious. Like any given moment, you know, child support could trip you up, or she could do something where you can't see your child. You know what I mean? And so I was like, nah, I'm not gonna be that. And so I got to work this plan, and I got to let everybody around me know what's going on, and I got to let them see it and have discussions with me about it and ask me questions about it. And because a lot of times when you're doing it that way, Kev, the people around you can participate. So what I mean is they may go, yo, baby, I saw this camera on sale, or, I met this guy today who's a, IT developer. I thought, it made me think about you and the work that you're doing. You see what I'm saying? Like that's true. Happen if you're not having that type of level. And I just think when you're over 35 and you're chasing a dream and you're working on your goals, your communication has to go up a notch.
True.
It has to be deeper and it has to be broader. And I think it also will help you be accountable. You know what I mean?
Man, that's a deep point that you made. I like that. The emphasis on the communication and the type of communication, that quality, like you're saying, the quality over quantity, making sure that you're actually delving deep into what you want to do and following through with it. That's a big thing, especially because our show is based on the fact of learning how to adult properly, how to properly take care of your business, handle your P's and Q's, not drop the ball on things, especially in this environment, because us as millennials, especially like we always say for the hip hop millennial, we need to learn these things because I remember Q-Tip saying, hip hop, it can never be a way of life, right? It doesn't teach you how to raise a family or treat your wife. But we're so influenced by hip hop that I think some of these things we have to learn how to turn it and make it a strength. And that grind, that hustle, that grit to get stuff done. We could turn. I like watching our people, especially from our generation, show improve in that way. And so you're a great example for that, for that actually being done and seeing that done.
Magician. I tell people all the time, bro, like I appreciate it. Thank you for that. But I ain't a magician, man. It's not magic. It's not magic sauce. That's what I like to leave with people. Like you got something you want to do, put a fucking plan together, work the fucking plan until the plan is done, and then tell everybody around you what the plan is. Like everybody gets to be a part of the play. A lot of people are fans of Nipsey Hussle, but they're not really studying Nipsey's moves.
Yeah.
Everybody was a part of the plays. It wasn't no secret. Everybody a part of the play. My daddy a part of the play. My mama a part of the play. My lady a part of the play. You know what I'm saying? You go in the marathon store, you would see that nigga daddy in there working. Everybody is a part of the plan. You understand? Like, like that's the part. And to be real with you, Kev, particularly when you're of our age, that's the part that's difficult for a lot of people because they haven't been real with themselves yet.
That's true.
So how am I going to be real with my mom and my dad and my man and my kids when I ain't been real with myself? And you're going to have a hard way. You're going to have a hard way financially. You're going to have a hard way with the emotional health of your family. You're going to have a hard way with the emotional health of yourself. If you're not being absolutely honest and communicating effectively when it comes to what it is you want to do and where you want to go and putting together those fucking directions. So people not getting in the car hoping and dreaming that you know where you're going. So people at least go, well, he got the direction. So, I know he know where he's going. You know what I mean?
Man,
that's true. That's true. Yeah, you got to have direction, and you got to have direction because, like you said, in a lot of ways, direction kind of leads into your purpose too. And people don't necessarily want to, especially when you get to a certain age. Like you kind of try to stay away from people who aren't purposeful in a sense. And that's just kind of like a natural inclination for anybody, especially if you have children or you have people that depend on you. They want to be around people that have purpose.
Whole facts. Without a doubt. That's the other thing I tell, people, particularly when you're dream chasing or, at this age, you have to have a thing, so we say purpose. I'll refer to it as a thing. Like, what is your thing? Like, what area are you focused on changing? Like, it can't just be healthcare. Healthcare is too broad. Like, what is it in healthcare that you're doing? Are you a biophysicist? Are you, a nuclear medicinist? Like, what are you actually like? Is recycling your thing? Is, my thing is African American, really stories of the African diaspora, particularly that come from the American South, and shining a light and provide opportunities for people that fall under that umbrella. That's my thing. You know what I mean? And it's very difficult to put together a plan for your vision or business or whatever it is you want to do, and you ain't figured out what the fuck your thing was. Like, that purpose part, Kev, like purpose purpose, even no purpose with the plan is no damn plan. Because you got to have a purpose for that plan. You can't just be like, I'm just going to McDonald's. Nigga, what you going to McDonald's for? Well, I just, I don't know. And then you're standing at the counter. But, I hate when people do that shit.
That person. Yep.
It's like, come on, man. You know what I mean? I don't want to be in the store for 4 hours.
Exactly.
I came here to get some white t-shirts. Let's get the t-shirt.
Man.
Some extra on the way, I'm cool with that. But I don't want to be walking. My feet hurt. So I'm going to sit down. You know what I mean? We don't even know why we're here. That's aggravating.
And speaking of purpose and your purpose for your building the enterprise that you're currently in, we have to jump onto this topic, and actually leads right into it. I know you're working on a big project. Currently a documentary called Saltwater.
Yeah.
And of course we pulled a description from your website. We had to go check it out. And of course, Saltwater, this is how it reads. Saltwater chronicles sister and brother, Sarah McCabe and Simeon Days, children of Ron and Natalie Days, from the popular 1990s Nickelodeon TV show Gullah Gullah Island, as they redefine the Gullah Geechee identity that they inherited. A tangled fusion of tourist novelty and television images that has historicized and marginalized the totality of their culture. They embark on a global journey from South Carolina to Sierra Leone to explore the complexities of redefining a narrative and how the making of music can modernize a culture.
Damn, that sounds good.
Don't it sound good?
It's on your site.
It's your site, man. Your site is slick, man. I've been up here looking at it and listening through the different videos and media content that you have on there. And interestingly enough, I went to school with Miss Sarah Days, and even my fiance actually interviewed her mother.
Wow.
So and of course we grew up watching Gullah Gullah Island. So when I saw that, I was already hooked. Because I'm invested in those people. And so growing up, yeah, man, we went to school at College Charleston, and being around the Gullah Geechee folk, having family members down there as well. I'm already like, yo, I can't wait to see this. So I know you had to say, okay, this needs to be a documentary and et cetera, but give us a little background on that story that you are creating with them, the work that you're putting into it, and even a little bit of your travels to make sure that things went along the way they're supposed to go. So
I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible, because that's a lot. You asked me.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to keep it simple. So I can tell you the idea came about. I was at a cocktail party, actually, ironically enough, and I was talking to a buddy of mine. He was like, he knew me from Love, Peace, and Hip Hop, and he was like, "What do you know about the Gullah Geechee on the coast?" And I was telling him, I know a good bit, but not too much. And he was like, I know you're into music. Have you ever thought about like what they're doing as far as musically? Like, is there like Gullah Geechee hip hop? And I knew rappers that were Gullah Geechee that rapped, but that's not what he was talking about. What he was talking about was, some kind of new form of music that's like their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shit. I don't know if that's a thing or not. And so I started exploring, just, because I was cool with people like Pacino, Dino, and a lot of people from that area, from that era when it comes to hip hop. Anyways, that identify as Gullah Geechee rap. And one of the things I realized was there wasn't a music that was specifically Gullah Geechee that was modern.
True.
Gullah Geechee, if you're talking about Gullah Geechee, Sea Island music, you're really talking about spirituals,
Negro spirituals, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but if you're 25, you're not riding around listening to Negro spirituals in the whip, at the club, you know what I mean? And so I was like, damn, hip hop did it, you know what I mean? As an African diaspora that, we created our own form of modern music. It was called hip hop. Back in the day, they created something called jazz. On the island Jamaica, they created reggae, and then the young people took that and made dance hall. In Puerto Rico, they made reggaeton. In the early 90s in West Africa, had a cat named Duvall that created the sound called Afrobeat, which is how people know Wizkid and Davido and Burna Boy and all that today. And so in the UK, they had grime music. So I was like, New Orleans has bounce. Shit, what does Gullah Geechee have? That's how the idea first came about. So I wrote like this little synopsis. It took me a while. It took me a couple months to put together a synopsis that I thought was decent. And I sent it to Ron, because Ron was consulting with me on another Gullah Geechee film I was working on called The Gullah Project at the time. And hired Ron. I brought Ron onto that project. And when I had this idea, I shot it to Ron. And Ron was like, yo, this is the type of thing my sons usually talk about. You should talk to my son about this idea. So I said, cool. Well, send it to him. Let me know what he think. Yo, Simeon's first response was, hell yeah. His email was like, yo, and here's what I think the title should be, Saltwater. And I was like, oh, shit. Because I had it stupid at. It was like Gullah Geechee Roots music. I didn't know what I and so he put it on, and I was like, I said, we might have something. And then he ran the idea by Sarah. I didn't know how close him and Sarah was at the time. And he ran the idea by Sarah, and Sarah was like, this, you all are really talking about Afrofuturism and Gullah Geechee Afrofuturism. There's so many people down here that's doing that. Like, we should tell that story with the story about this. Can we create this music? And so that's how it all came together. And I brought Sarah and Simeon on as executive producers, even though they don't know anything about the film world in that way, particularly the documentary feature film world. But because in order for me to get access to the people we're going to need access to is to really tell a story and to make sure that I'm treating the story with respect, make sure that, it's authentic, to make sure that, we're because this is about identity, and it's about a modern form of identity. Because when people think about or talk about Gullah Geechee, they love talking about the past. They love talking about the past is dope. Yes, they're one of the only, if not the only, African American community that still have traces of Africa in their culture. Like, you don't find
recognized nationally.
And recognized nationally. They have their own language. Like, it's the things that African Americans dream about. Like, we never talked about Africa. I ain't got no connections to Africa. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But you go to these people's houses and you see foodways and practices and even songs that they still singing in West Africa to this day. It's amazing. And yes, all that's cool. But what are they doing right now? It's the same
still alive.
They're still alive. They fucking and sleeping and making babies and going to the club. Like, why are we acting like they existed 100 years ago? Yeah. And so our film is about what's happening now and what are young people doing to prepare for the future of what Gullah Geechee look like? How are they identifying now? How are they reclaiming their identity separate from a colonized identity? And then on top of that, can we take that identity and create a soundtrack for it? Mm. And so that's what our film is about. And so, I want to give a shout out to the Southern Documentary Fund for believing in us so much to not only give us money, but also become our fiscal sponsor. So we're able to qualify as a nonprofit, which allows us to raise funding through a lot of the grants that we've gotten through the South Carolina Humanities Council, the South Carolina Arts Commission, the Puffin Foundation. Man, it's several. And so, this is going to be, it's a feature-length film. So it's going to be a long road. We're in production now. The COVID slowed down our production a whole lot.
Understandably.
It's very difficult to film it because, this film is very what they call cinema verite. It's not necessarily just a bunch of people sitting down giving interviews. We're in these spaces and filming these things happen. I really want this film to be more like a fly on the wall kind of experience. And then we got this process of trying to make this music, which we're still identifying musicians, that we feel should be a part of or want to be a part of this journey with us. And so, we still got a long way to go, man. We're this probably won't see, I think on our website it says 2022. This probably won't see that light of day until 2023, but it's a labor of love and one that's needed and one that I think is going to be a blueprint. I think if we do this film right, this could be a blueprint for a lot of marginalized communities around the world, because there's a lot of communities around the world like the Gullah Geechee that are trying to do the same thing. Like, how do we create a new identity for ourselves that's modern, contemporary, and hip, and that's alive and future and looking into the future, because, that's how we do Native Americans the same way. There's so many people that we do the same. Like, what's the modern
in the past
music? Yeah, we hold it. We keep it as a novelty. You know what I mean? We keep it. Oh, come out! Why don't you come out and do one of them? Hey y'all, and then go away. You know what I mean?
Oh, Lord, you ain't lying.
That shit is whack.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
People, you know what I mean? We gotta let their culture breathe, and that's what this film is about. Not trapping the culture inside whatever you think it should be. Seagrass baskets and crab, crab cracks. Like, that's cool, but that's marginalizing and let it be free. What does it look like if it has wings and flies? That's what we want to see. So that's what the film is about.
Man, okay. And that leads into another thing that we like to ask folks who are creators, especially ones who are creating any media or stories or moving stories, controlling the narrative. And that's what you're talking about right now. Like, yes, the importance of doing that and doing it through storytelling from a cultural perspective. Could you speak on that some?
It's the key. Controlling the narrative is the key to changing. Controlling the narrative is just the key. The reason why it's the key is because the narrative has been uncontrolled for so long. Or rather, I should say, and no, I said it right. The narrative has been uncontrolled for so long. And I say uncontrolled because whoever was controlling it didn't know what they was doing with it.
That's a good point.
So it was it was uncontrolled. Like, if we're going to tell our stories right, particularly for marginalized communities around the world, I mean those of the African diaspora, the Asian diaspora, the Latino, Latinx diaspora, the Pacific Island diaspora, it's all the same. Like, we have to take control of the narratives to tell the stories from our points of view, because it has not been done on a wide enough scale. Everything is still measured by the white European eye. Everything is still funneled through the white European way of thought. Everything from the way we design neighborhoods to, to the foods that we eat, to what restaurants we deem, what cuisines we deem to be great, what languages we deem to be great. It's all funneled through this, this white person's way of saying, we said that's great. Well, what about our shit? It's funny to me. I remember me and B was watching Crazy Rich Asians, and we was tripping because the movie was we thought the movie was great. But you had this family at the center of the movie whose culture was thousands of years old, who had been, one of the leading families in China for thousands of years. And all these motherfuckers was talking about was Versace and Balenciaga. And I was like, y'all family older than all of those brands.
Yeah.
How in the world are y'all going after Versace and Gucci?
Bowing down to Versace.
Gucci ain't even 100 years old. Like, what's happening? Like, it was confusing to us. It was just like, damn, like, this y'all family been a dynasty for thousands of years, and you giving props to something that been around for a blink of an eye. America just got here.
That's some
America
perspective.
just got here.
Yep,
America
that's some
grew up,
perspective.
150, 20 years.
250 years
Maybe.
old, bro.
You know how old Egypt, you know how old Congo is? You know how old the kingdom of Dahomey is?
Yeah.
You understand? Like, bro, like, come on, bro. Like,
Why don't you think those cultures get the respect, like, when it comes to these things? Because
this is how I look at it. We've been under European rule for 500 years. So because we've been under European rule, everything has kind of been dictated by the European, what we consider first world countries, right? They have set the standard for everything from business to industry to design to clothes to this is how we should do schooling. These languages are the best. This is where you should go vacation. This is what a vacation home should look like. Like, all of that's come from through their lens. And that's why we see things that way. And that's why it hasn't been respected, because, think about us, like the only reason I respect bluegrass music is because I had a chance to work at WUSC when I was at USC, work at Manifest, and have these people teach me about bluegrass. Otherwise, I would not give a fuck about bluegrass. You understand what I'm saying?
Unless you were bought in the culture, yeah.
Thank you.
Properly,
why would I expect somebody that thinks Shakespeare is great to think Nagi Wachiango is great? Why would I? He won't even know who that is. He don't even care. Why would I expect someone that wants to tell me about Napoleon to teach me about the kingdom of Dahomey? Like, how would he even know? He don't care about Timbuktu. Outside of it being like a footnote and a little cool little picture with a black kid with a, trying to make us look primitive.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm like, yo, these are libraries here, man. These are the people.
Crazy, man. It's so weird to me. But at the same time, I understand it because, I understand the humanity in it because, it's a lot of things that not only am I not proximate to, but because I'm not privy to that information and I don't have the knowledge about that culture, I don't have a lot of respect for that culture. And so the only way we start creating that, the opportunities for people to be proximate to our cultures is for us to control the narratives and let people have these experiences with us. Because how many times have you seen a movie or experienced a story or read a book that features a culture that's not yours and identify with it?
That's a good point.
So many times.
That's a good point.
Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. It can be imaginary or not. Like,
Game of Thrones. I don't understand nothing about Game of Thrones.
You know, but there's been books and things that I read where I'm like, yo, I can really relate to that, even though I don't speak that language. You know, I might not speak Korean, or I might not speak, I might not speak Lingala, but I hear these stories and I go, wow, I can relate to that. I can see the humanity in them and the humanity in me. And now I have a new respect for that culture. That can only happen when the culture is able to speak for itself as opposed to someone else speaking for it. It's just like hip hop, bro. It's just like hip hop, Kev. It's just like hip hop. Like, I can't stand when people be fake hip hopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate those commercials. They call cringy. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, that's not what we wouldn't say it like that. You know, That's not. What are you doing? That's not even a good hip hop beat. Like, go find a real producer. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
But it's because they don't know nothing about the culture and they just trying to it's like you're making a mockery out of it instead of letting somebody from the culture tell you how it's supposed to go. And that's how we should treat narratives, I think.
Understood, man. That's an excellent point. And I'll even build on it too, especially, and I'm going to get your ideas on this. I know with Southern storytelling in general, it's interesting because, Southern storytelling is very unique from other parts of our country because there's such a mix between the black, the black and the dominant white culture, but it's a very shared experience. So in your opinion, do you think, just as a storyteller, being from the South, do you think that there's a better way to tell some of these Southern stories that will appeal to both sides and then also tell the stories more properly? And I know you're dealing with saltwater. You're going to see a lot of that, and you're going to have to deal with a lot of those back and forth, that balance of power.
I think the best way to tell stories, regardless of where you tell them from, is to tell them authentically. I think part of the problem is we keep trying to put boundaries on, that is a little bit sensitive, or, maybe people not ready to understand that yet, or, let's water this sentence down. Like, I don't think you should do that. I think the more authentic the stories are, like, look at Parasite. I love Parasite. That movie is amazing. And I don't know nothing about that culture. I don't know nothing about that lifestyle, nothing. But because they told it in such a way that's authentic to that culture and that type of story, and those people that live that way, because that's a real thing that people do. They have these maids, and these rich people have these people that live in, in these spaces underneath their homes and all this crazy shit. But it's crazy to us,
Yeah, exactly.
But the whole point of it is, the nuances can only come from someone who's lived it. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, it's just like if you met somebody that's a Harry Potter fan and you a Harry Potter fan. If they not a real Harry Potter fan, it's going to be revealed in the conversation. You're going to be able to pick up on little things and be like, nah, he ain't read the books. He's just seen the movies. Like, what
exactly.
I mean? You're going to know. Authenticity. It's nuance.
Authenticity. And building on that authenticity idea, you can also break into what's called meaningful social engagement, because when you're authentic, and especially dealing with storytelling, you're going to be looking for meaningful social engagement in what you do and what you produce, correct?
Amen. Word. That's 100% correct. 100% correct. 100% correct. I couldn't have said it better.
Man, shoot, man. I just want to, and then I know another question I have for you, because I know we ran up on that time, and I'm not going to try to hold you much longer past that.
You can cut whatever you need to cut out of this. I don't care.
We're gonna keep it all. We're gonna keep most of it. That's what I'm saying. You don't realize we had one episode. We didn't expect to go this long. We went for 2 hours. So yeah, we'll keep it, because the content, we like how honest the content is, especially dealing with the folk that we've been talking with, because we know most of these people personally, and the information that you're giving is vital, especially for the community that we're dealing with. They need to hear these things, and they need to hear it in a raw, uncut way. But man, ain't no problem, man. What current and future projects are you working on besides Saltwater that you'd like people to hear and know about? I know I'm going to point out one that I thought was that's amazing. I was on your website, man, looking at the South Carolina Center for Fathers and Families, the little piece of work that you did on that. That's an excellent program, first of all. I just want to point that out.
Beautiful program. Amazing dude, man. Ron Pyatt. his story, I have a longer version of that film because they shortened it. We did a longer version that's so much better because it has his kids in it. And it's a lot better than the pieces that we actually were commissioned to release. We got commissioned by the Fathers of South Carolina Center for Fathers and Families to do that. Amazing story, amazing dude. I'm just talking about the very definition of persistence. I mean, this dude filled out over 900 applications and did a job. Like, whew, I know how many people would have stopped at 40, at 10. You know what I mean? 900. But anyway, so several of the projects I'm working on, I can't talk about yet because they're not, they're not fully realized. I mean, like, they're not like, there's been no agreement signed or anything like that. So it's really hard for me to say. But or I'm doing something that's like in the political space. And
okay. You can't let that be known. Yeah. I
can't let it be known yet. But there's some very exciting projects that I'm working on that feature some prominent historical figures in South Carolina that are African American that I can't really talk about yet. But that's kind of going in the other direction. I try not to go older. If you look at a lot of my work, particularly like the Justice 360 stuff, a lot of that stuff is very modern, contemporaries now. I try not to go back because that's really what I like to focus on is the now and the future. But this particular piece I was commissioned to do that we're working on now, it's in development now, I'm excited about it, but it is kind of it's more of a historical thing. I can't say too much about that other than what I already said. And other than that, I'm very excited about saltwater.
I have a question about that. What is it called? The Green Book of South Carolina. Could you explain a little bit what that is?
Sure. That's more on our media strategy side. The South Carolina Parks and Recreation partnered with Flock and Rally, and they came to us because they were trying to build this app. And of course, they need some black folk to tell them how to do it. You know what I mean? But I was so happy to work with Flock and Rally. I love Debbie and Tracy. I love Kate Maloney, who did a lot of the design that you see with that. And it was just an opportunity for Parks and Rec under the leadership at that time of Don Dawson House, who actually has taken on a new position with this organization called WeGoja, WeGoja. Yeah, it's really dope. But Don Dawson House, I got to give a shout out to her and Janie Harriet over at South Carolina African American Historic Council or History. Oh, she's going to kick me. SCHHAC is the name of her organization. And what they did was they was like, in the spirit of the Green Book, let's create a travel guide for African-American sites in the state. And so we were a part of that project pretty much, every step of the way, from developing the rollout to developing design, developing the color scheme, the language, the fonts. We were very heavily involved in that project because it had to feel right.
Looks good, yeah.
It had to feel modern. It had to feel like it had to be easy to navigate. Shout out to Period 3. They did all of they did all the work on that project. Dope got Gene and Jay over there. And so that was a really, really dope. I'm very proud of that project, particularly being from South Carolina. I love it when I'm able to do things that people from South Carolina can touch and feel. Because a lot of times I do stuff you can't touch and feel, but stuff like that, people can go, oh, I use that. You know what I mean? Oh shit, you have something to do with that? That's cool, And so yeah, Green Book is dope, man. Easy to get to. You can access it on any device. You can just go, put in the website. You don't have to get the app, but there is an app too. And it'll take you to any African American historic site you want to see, and they're still adding sites to it all the time.
That's what's dope, man.
Yeah. It's really dope, particularly for people that are come from out of town, or you got family reunions, y'all looking at stuff to do. Let's go check out some Black shit. It's always our history is important. It's extremely important to this country, and so.
Well, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna wrap up today. I just want to thank our guest, man, so much for Mr. Sherard Shekeese Duvall for joining us today, giving us his time and energy. We appreciate you, brother.
Thank y'all.
You know that. And then for my co-host Skip, I'm DJ and What. We want to say peace and blessings, man. Thank you for listening. That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.